So imagine if the Joker was a member of the Texas Chainsaw family. Yeah.
Nah.
So I was contacted by the director of this film for a review, and I had to do it because I'm just a big softie for insane people that do insane things, and this is nuts. And you've got to give a lot of credit where it's due. There are so many indie films and B movies out there nowadays trying to do so much with like dinosaurs and sharks and... No, it's always dinosaurs or sharks. And they constantly fail because they don't have the budget to do that kind of thing with CGI. And I always look at them and I think, you could probably make a much more worthwhile, reasonable, decent film if you just did anything else. Anything that didn't require a huge amount of CGI. And this is a prime example of that. Cannibal Comedian is about Charlie, who eats people seemingly just to deal with the insecurities of not being brave enough to give stand-up comedy a go. I honestly believe that most stand-up comedians are cannibals or into some kind of dark art cult anyway, so it's pretty believable thus far. Anyway, he sells meatball subs made of people at the side of the road, which is pretty much how Subway got started, I think. And he also has a bunch of other like local cannibal friends. It's kind of like John Wick, where you're like, oh, a hitman. Not too many of them around, and then every character you meet is a hitman. It's a little bit like that, yeah. They've got a nice collective thing going out there. It's like John Wick if it was set in the American Psycho universe. So one day Charlie meets Crystal, who somehow manages to spell her name with a H in there. How does that... doesn't matter. And he starts to struggle with the idea of killing her and just locks her up because he just can't bring himself to do it and has dreams about her becoming a cannibal and just generally wants to get his freak on, which he does all the time. It is just this weird, quirky thing. I don't know how to describe it. It feels like it's almost from the perspective of this guy who thinks he's so funny and has this idea about himself and what he is. And it's just a very quirkily made film, which isn't an outright comedy, definitely. It's got a lot of, like, I don't know, just the way he plays it. The lead, Aaron Prager, is actually kind of good. He gives me sort of Bruce Campbell in Evil Dead vibes, though I couldn't put this film on the level of that as an indie film. It's not, you know. You would think this is going to be some sort of sloppy, silly nightmare, but it's actually quite funny. Not in a, oh my god, this secret treasure kind of way, but in a, oh, hey, for a modern indie film where a lot of the time they are just trash, this was an enjoyable watch throughout. It's got a tight runtime. None of the video or audio quality is like distractingly bad ever. It's all reasonable. It's all fine, which you really can't say for so many of these indie films. It's often really irritating that you're like almost beginning to enjoy it or get into it, and then there's just a scene where the audio quality dips to nothing. Nothing like that in this. It's actually well made. They took a lot of care with it. Everything from the writing, which is genuinely enjoyable. Like, there are admittedly more one-line jokes about cannibalism in here than you would have thought possible to exist, but that's fine. But also, it's in the little things, you know, the B-reel that they take, the practical effect. I mean, my goodness. I won't put them on the level of like Terrifier, which is obviously the standard bearer modern day for these kind of things, but it is made by the same company, and it's got a similar quality at times to it. They don't go hard on that, but a couple of like he brings in like a piece of like skin, like a chest off one of his victims, and actually, yeah, it's really good, and that was impressive to see, and it's clearly so much more care has been taken with this film than your usual kind of let's go make a movie over the weekends, beer drinking 40-year-old man crowd. I would say it's not actually a bad film. It's also not a masterpiece by any means, but it's actually just watchable, which is really surprising, yeah. And it is a lesson. You should just take care and love what you're actually making, really put as much effort into it as you can, and try something bold, because it's not just he's a cookie cannibal running around with a face mask on, like he is a couple of scenes, but a lot of this is actually trying to explore the idea of taking a character like this and giving him extra facets, because making a horror movie, which it kind of is, to some degree, from the perspective of the villain, that's tough. And then kind of giving him like this comedic side, but also he is just nuts, and adding all the insecurities to his character. It did a lot, and it was very interesting to watch, and they did tease a sequel at the end. Would I be excited for one? That's a stretch. I feel like it's going to go off the rails real hard. The post-credit scene went off the rails pretty hard, but it's fine. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. And honestly, it is a better film than some horror movies I've seen in the cinema this year. Look at you, Blumhouse. What's going on? Come on. Anyway, I'm giving a whole new meaning to the term dead crowd 2 stars. I should clarify that the director contacted me to ask for a video and give me a screener for the film. I didn't make any money off it. I never make any money off any of this. Yeah. Cannibalism does seem like a viable option in late-stage capitalistic societies.